The new FPL season is about to begin. The deadline is tomorrow. We've had all preseason to study players' forms, to have a look at transfers and try and build the best squad. Do we want Erling Haaland? Do we want Bruno Fernandes? And is Gabriel overpriced, or is he actually the best way into the Arsenal defence? And now it is finally time to build those teams ready for the first deadline. Here is my Game Week 1 team selection. What is up, everyone? FPL Harry here. Before we dive in, drop a like on the video, and as it is the Game Week 1 team selection, I'm going to set you a very ambitious target. Can we hit 5,000 likes on this Game Week 1 team selection? If you're enjoying the content during preseason, if you're completely new to the channel, you've been watching a very long time, I appreciate every single one of you who has sat in front of your screens watching this video. And if you could, completely free, support the channel and drop a like. And if you are completely new, we upload every single day basically throughout the season, looking at my team, answering your questions, discussing players that I think you should buy, what we've seen at the weekend. And I do all the analysis to hopefully put into 20-minute videos that you can understand and take away and build your team without having to do all of that. Then please do subscribe. And if you are not in my mini league already, the code is A6F GYM. Please make sure you're joining that ahead of the deadline. And if you really need a reason to subscribe, hopefully I've got a bit of a track record. Over the last 6 years, I finished inside the top 10K on 5 of those 6 years, finishing 510th in the entire world as my highest ever finish. Within that run, I finished 26K last year, and I'll be doing my best to get myself back into the top 10K once again in this new FPL season. And that puts me as the third highest ranked manager in the entire world over these 6 seasons in terms of average rank. So if you want to follow along, hopefully get some entertaining or useful information across the season, then make sure you're subscribed. But let's dive in and talk about what you are really here for. My Game Week 1 team selection. We're going to do this slightly differently. We're going to start off with actually the starting 11, and then we're going to talk about the bench once we get to the end. In goal, I'm sticking with Kinski. I still plan on looking at a Game Week 6 wildcard. And that is really important with some of the players that I'm looking to pick, because when you look at the fixtures over the first 5 weeks, I don't want to just be picking players who maybe have a good fixture in Game Week 1 and Game Week 2, potentially like a Sunderland. I want to be picking players who maybe don't have a perfect fixture in Game Week 1, but will set me up well for the first 5 weeks. And I think Kinski is absolutely perfect for that. I don't expect Spurs to be that great going forward, but I do expect them, with the signings of like Van Hecke and Senesi, who are both probably going to start in Game Week 1. I do expect them to be much more solid defensively. Plus, when you add in someone like a Tonali into their midfield, defensively, I think they'll be really solid. I think Kinski is underpriced. I've owned him for the majority, if not all of my drafts. I can't quite remember who was in my very first draft, but I think he is the best 4.5 million goalkeeper. Into my defense. So, Calafiori is in. Let's talk a little bit about the Arsenal defense, because at time of recording, it sounds like Timber is going to be back in Arsenal training at some point over the next week. So he probably isn't going to, well, he's definitely not going to start Game Week 1. He's almost certainly not going to start Game Week 2. He might return for Chelsea in Game Week 3. Game Week 4 and 5 will be an issue for Ben White. So that kind of rules out Ben White as a medium-term pick. You can go with him for Game Week 1 and potentially Game Week 2, but after that, he's an issue. They are heavily linked, and maybe even by the time you're seeing this, Ezri Konsa to Arsenal is entering the final stages of being confirmed. Now, again, I don't think Ezri Konsa will start Game Week 1. He might not even start any of the first 5 if Mosquera plays well in the opening couple of games. They might give Konsa time to embed in, get to know the system and the squad, because he hasn't actually played any minutes since the World Cup. But because of that risk, Konsa could go in and start in either Game Week 2 or Game Week 3. And I'm looking for the first 5 weeks. That also rules out Mosquera. So that leaves 3 picks. David Raya, who I'm not spending 6 million on a goalkeeper for such a short-term pick. I might well own him on wildcard when I go to play it, and I can own him for a long period of time, and it's a better investment. Gabriel, I haven't owned in any draft just because I can't afford him, as I do want Haaland or Bruno. If I could afford Gabriel and I wasn't going Haaland or Bruno, then maybe at this point, because of Mosquera and Ben White being risky picks, I would go there. But at the moment, I can't afford it, which just leaves Calafiori. Now, I could go with no Arsenal defence, but I don't think that's the real sensible play. it is worth taking a risk, and his attacking threat is really good. I am well aware that it comes with a slight minutes risk, a major minutes risk potentially. In preseason and the end of last season, he still was being taken off early. In preseason, the last two matches, he's played 59 minutes. And if they're 2 or 3-0 up against Coventry, that could absolutely happen again. But he's the only one at the price that I've got who I think could start all of the first five. He is a risk. I'm well aware of that. But his attacking threat, plus him being an Arsenal defender for 5-5, makes it feel like it is a risk that I'm willing to take. Elsewhere in my starting defence, I've got Harry Maguire. With Casemiro going, the opening few fixtures, I actually think 4 of the first 5 are pretty good. They've got Everton away in game week 3 and Fulham away in game week 5 after the Hull and Ipswich fixtures. And actually for the first 5, I think he's a good pick. I don't expect us to see a De Ligt and Martinez partnership in a Premier League game until much further down the line. They've both not played for a while. They've hardly ever played together. Maguire is fully fit and ready to go. He's been playing all of pre-season and Carrick likes him. I keep repeating this point, but I don't think we can underestimate what it means when a manager just likes a player. Managers have favourites, and I think Maguire is a Carrick favourite. And then the final starting defender is probably one that is slightly less nailed because I've gone for Muharemovic of Leeds. Their new signing, very good for DEFCON. He's good attacking threat. He's got good numbers in his league previously. The only reason he won't be in my Game Week 1 draft is if I decide I need the 0.5 million and I go for Joe Rodon instead. I think Rodon will start all of the first 5. I don't really have any concerns about their new signings, about a system change. I do think Rodon will start all of the first 5, but Muharemovic is just slightly safer. Maybe 100% nailed versus 90%. His DEFCON numbers are expected to be better. His attacking data is expected to be better. We don't know that. And if I need to save 0.5, that downgrade is a very simple place to do it. But if I've got the money, which I do in this draft, I do plan on going with him as a slightly safer pick. Then we move into midfield. I've got Sangare, now of Brentford. In my last draft, people said my draft was 0.5 over. That's because I had Sangare of Nottingham Forest, which I did on purpose. He is still good for DEFCON. But Sangare of Brentford, his DEFCON numbers plus the attacking returns that I do think he will get, I just like him as an option. I think he'll do really well over the course of the season. My only slight concern is his DEFCON per 90 numbers are great, but they do have lots of midfielders and he is new to the Premier League. So is there a chance he doesn't play 90 every game? And as a result, his DEFCON takes a little bit of a hit. He's less likely to hit it. Absolutely. But I do think at 5-5, he is a good pick. Elsewhere in my midfield, I've gone Bruno Fernandes. He's been in every single one of my drafts. I don't think he's worth 12 million. But when it's Hull and Ipswich in the first 2, and I think he's the best captain in game week 2, I'm just going to go with him. I'm pretty certain on that. And I know Brian and Burmo didn't start their last friendly, but I think that's just a minutes thing over pre-season. He's played a lot of minutes. I do expect him to start Hull and Ipswich in the first 2, and then I can look to do something else. And the final one is Solis. And if you have watched the content over the past week, I've probably given you whiplash on my opinions of Solis. I've said he's an awful pick. I said I don't understand why people are picking him. I said, okay, he played quite well in the Community Shield. I said, oh, I've done some digging and he actually looks quite good. And now he's in my team. I am by no means set on him. I'm not trusting him as a pick, but he's so highly owned and the upside is there. It's him or Szoboszlai in that position. I'm not going to own Wirtz. He's too expensive. He's not worth $1 million over Solis. So it's Solis or the safe pick of Szoboszlai. But I've constantly said at the end of last season, in pre-season, I saw the route to points as being more important for Szoboszlai. But he only scored 2 or 3 open play goals last year, which is still a real concern. And in pre-season, he plays the majority of the games quite deep. He ends the game in the number 10 because Wirtz can't play 90 minutes. And he ends the game on penalties because Isak can't, which is why I still think he's a decent pick. But that 0.5 million from Szoboszlai to Solis is quite useful. The other thing I've spoken about quite a lot is I think we will use a lot of transfers in midfield. I'm very comfortable with my defence, apart from maybe Calafiori. And when we look at my front line, I'm very happy with them as well. Actually, we can go up front now. I've got João Pedro, Calvert-Lewin and Haaland. To be honest, there's not that much to talk about them. I am going to go with a Haaland draft. I don't see any reason to take him out. I think my draft with Haaland and Bruno actually still looks pretty good. I don't feel like I'm sacrificing very much. he's not looked, well, he didn't look that great in his only preseason game, but he played good minutes. I expect him to start well. Now, Doku being out is not as good for Haaland as when he plays. He's a good assister to him, but I'm going to start with him because I don't think my draft sacrifices that much when I've got them both in. Calvert-Lewin in the first 5 looked great, again with that wild card in game week 6 window, and João Pedro exactly the same. Now, he has taken Chelsea's number 9 shirt, which is cursed. Any Chelsea fan or anyone who's followed along, anyone who takes the number 9 shirt does not do well. So I'm surprised he's done it, and that has just been announced this evening. But I'm very happy with this front line, and they are all good picks for the first 5. So unless Haaland does really badly, I still won't be selling him before Coventry at home in game week 3. Calvert-Lewin's first 5 are good. João Pedro's first few are good, and then he plays Hull in game week 4. So I don't expect to use transfers on my defence, apart from maybe Calafiori and my forward line. I think we will all be using transfers in midfield. I find it very difficult to pick a midfield that I'm happy with for the long term. In defence and up front, I can absolutely do it, and that's what I think I've done. But in midfield, I can't do it. So as a result, I've gone with Brian Mbeumo and Zolis, 2 who I think could start really well, and Bruno as well, in the first couple of games. And then in game week 3 or 4, when hopefully I don't have to use loads of transfers in my defence and forward line because I'm setting them up for the long term, I can move Mbeumo to Semenyo. I can move Zolis to a 6 million option who looks really good if he doesn't start well. I can sell Bruno to Palmer or come down to Semenyo from him. There are lots of options in midfield that I'm certain we won't get right for the start of the season. You can pick good defenders who are going to get DEFCON and some clean sheets probably. You can pick a front 3 that I haven't changed all in pre-season, whereas in midfield, I find it really difficult. So I'm happy to take some shorter term punts in that position in the likes of Mbeumo and Solis, who have great opening games for Man United and Arsenal, 2 teams we think will do well. And then I can evaluate a few weeks in and hopefully prioritize my transfers in this position. Now, before we talk about the bench, let's talk about captaincy. At the moment, the armband is still on Erling Haaland. I just like him at home. I just think he's so good at home at the start of the season that I need a reason to take it off him. And Bruno Fernandes has just not given that to me. It is the whole fixture that is tempting me on Bruno. They are the worst team in the league, and going into the start of the season, they might get better once they add lots of new signings. But at the moment, you have to think that Hull will finish last in the Premier League. So that is what is tempting me to target the fixture when Haaland is maybe not fully ready. But I just look at Haaland's record at home and his record at the start of the season, and he's been my captain all of pre-season, and I've still not seen anything from Bruno to really want to move it off him. Plus, I've got Brian Mbeumo in my team as well, so there's a little bit of my mind thinking I've got double up on Man United there, but I don't have Semenyo or any other City to maybe put the armband on Haaland, so he still has it. So then, that's my starting 11, and I feel very set on pretty much all of the players. The only couple of things are Solis versus Szoboszlai, but that 0.5 is quite helpful, and Muharemovic versus Rodon. Like, I could do Rodon and then go Szoboszlai. Those are probably the only 2 spots that I'm looking at and thinking there is a reasonable chance, maybe 20%, that I change them, but I'm pretty happy with them. The bench is where things get slightly interesting. Now, the Premier League season is literally about to begin, and when it does, there are 5 essential apps on my phone. The FPL app, of course, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and the FootMob app, which is so useful when I'm out and about like today and when there's matches on. And it is the final weekend of pre-season. Lots of interesting stuff happening. We might talk about that at some point, but it starts before you even unlock your phone. I've got every single Premier League team, their scores pinned to my lock screen, and you also get notifications on whatever you want. Things like goal scorers, lineups if you want that, red cards, yellow cards. I want it all, so I've got it all there. And then once you unlock the app, you're presented with something that looks like this. So much going on today. You've got Brentford 3-0 up, João Pedro scored twice, lots of interesting stuff for FPL teams. But if we go to a game from the Premier League last year, you can have a look at the table, you can have a look at fixtures, player stats, team stats, whatever you want, a whole host of player stats, XG, shots on target that you can track. Liverpool, Bournemouth, let's use that as an example. Let's take Dominic Szoboszlai. If you go to lineups, again, in real time, you can see XG, XA, live DEFCON numbers if you want to track that like me. Something I like to do on the weekends to see how my players are tracking. Szoboszlai here actually got 11. If you click on the team, make sure you're clicking that notification. Live activities is what will put it on your home screen if you want to do that. Honestly, an essential app. It is completely free. Real-time notifications, real-time updates. Make sure you have it on your phone for the new season. So then moving on to the bench. And I'm very certain now that I will bench boost in either game week 1 or game week 2. I spoke about potentially saving it, but downgrading Vert to Solis, which I feel like is a reasonable money saver, has just given me the money to very easily bench boost. There is a small chance I move it until game week 2, and a lot of that will depend on Brighton on Thursday evening. If they play a full strength team and it's a difficult match and they look like they're going to be tired going into the weekend, I've effectively got a triple Brighton bench boost at home to Aston Villa, and that might put me off. But Aston Villa are all over the place. Watkins is going, Rodgers is gone, Tielemans is gone, Konza is going, Martinez is going. That's probably their 5 best players from last season, all not starting in game week 1. That doesn't feel great for them. So at the moment, I'm pretty happy to bench boost with Brighton, but let's see how they get on Thursday evening. Verbruggen and Diop are really simple. If I bench boost 1, it will be Verbruggen and Diop. If I bench boost 2, it will be Rushworth and Thomas. So Coventry at home to Hull in game week 2 will be those options. And then it leaves Pascal Gross and Vuskovic. That is 10.5 million I have to spend on a midfielder and a defender. At the moment, I've gone for a 5.5 million mid in Gross and a 5 million defender in Vuskovic, adding to 10.5. This could be a 6 million mid and a 4.5 million defender. So someone like Ajer, someone like a Robertson of Spurs, someone like a even Rodon to double up on the Leeds defense. And then I upgrade Pascal Gross to someone like a Kevin Schade, an Enzo Lafie, or an Illiman and Die. All of those are possible. And the reason that would change is if I move to bench boost 2, because I can't bench boost with triple Brighton away to Chelsea in game week 2. But I do like Vuskovic's underlying data. His DEFCON looks good and his attacking threat looks great. Pascal Gross, I do expect him to keep penalties for the meantime because their new striker is unlikely to come straight into the lineup in the first few matches. So I think Pascal Gross, if you're on that wildcard 6 strategy, is still a good pick. He's maybe not quite as good because he might lose penalties eventually further down the line, but there aren't many other 5.5s or even 5 million options because you could go to an Ampadu, but then I've got Sangare. I don't really want a double up of DEFCON mids. So the only other way to get an exciting attacker, which is what I want in that position, or someone with attacking threat, I wouldn't say Pascal Gross is a exciting attacker, but someone with attacking threat, is to go with Gomez of Brighton at 5 million, who's a bit of an injury risk, or to upgrade him to 6 million, which is why that Vuskovic downgrade to a 4.5 is something I'm exploring, to upgrade Pascal Gross to someone like an Enzo Lafie, an Illiman Dye, a Kevin Schade, as I explained. But we've got just over 24 hours now until the first deadline, and I feel pretty settled. I will wait and watch Brighton on Thursday evening, see how they get on, evaluate how I think they're going to do in game week 1, decide if I need a 0.5 million here or there to upgrade those couple of spots, but I feel really close. So we're going to wrap it up there. That's enough talking about my team selection. That's enough talking about my team. There is one video left, which will be Friday morning, which is your complete guide. If you've not watched anything in preseason and you still have questions, this is the video for you. As much as I would love you to go and watch every single video I've recorded every single day for the past month, that's probably too much. So the complete guide effectively will try and combine a month's worth of content into half an hour maximum. So if you've got questions, you've got things you still want me to answer, drop it all in the comment section down below. As I said at the beginning, can we hit 5,000 likes on this video? Subscribe if you are new. If you do want to get FootMob on your phone for the course of the season, as I do every single day pretty much, to check live scores in the Premier League and other competitions, there's a link in the description for that as well. We're going to wrap it up there. Good luck with your final changes. Like and subscribe before you go, and I'll be back again very soon.